Fire is pretty simple, right? It's bright, hot, and it burns you. Well, sometimes. And there's really only one way to find out, by touching it. So today, we're going to go through every Call of Duty Zombies map from World at War to Black Ops 6 and every game in between, totaling more than 64 maps, to see if we can find fire, and if so, how fast can we get to it? Join me in finding out how fast can you touch fire in every Zombies map. After obsessing over water for a few months throughout every Zombies game and map, I figured the only logical next step was to move on to fire. And of course, we always start strong with Call of Duty World at War. Nocturne Toten is our first map, and it's a good one for fire. I mean, we see it straight away in the intro. As soon as we spawn, turn around and head to the stairs for our first quick and easy fire touch, 2.36 seconds. Fire is way more common in zombies than water, so finding it won't be nearly as tough. Well, for some of them. Verrucht is interesting because, as you know, there's two different spawns. The quick revive side doesn't have any immediate fire, so we have to build up some points and make our way into the power room, open up the door to the jug side, and touch fire in about 6.5 minutes. On this same side in Black Ops 3, we can actually touch fire way faster by going here. The flames clip in from the outside and we're able to touch fire. Somehow. But we can touch fire even faster. We just have to keep resetting for the Juggernog spawn. And in 1 second exactly, we can touch fire on Verrucht. Even faster than Noct, and we're only just getting started. From now on, I'll only include other versions of the same maps if there's any interesting or major differences. Shinonuma is next. I was surprised that there was no immediate fire in this map spawn. We have to build up our points and make our way downstairs into the swamp. Then, if we look around, you'll notice, right there, fire flies. Right? Okay, no, but for real. We can open the other side of the building and find a torch we can jump up to, lighting our hair on fire in 2 minutes and 17 seconds. I think it's perfectly reasonable to assume we can touch this source of fire. In Black Ops 3, the torch is a different model completely and a little lower, so I'd say it's even more reasonable in this version of Shinonuma. Doris is a little strange with fire, and I wasn't sure what to do with it, because I noticed that right when you load into the map, there's ash and embers raining down from the sky. So in all honesty, this could be a certified instant fire touch. But on the Black Ops 3 version, we have no embers in the sky. I'm pretty sure it's just snow, though I did attempt to find a more concrete fire source. And I did, right here, 2.5 minutes in. On Black Ops 3, for some reason, this fire is completely extinguished. Though, we can find a quicker fire source if we make our way to this burning hole in the ceiling. When burning bits of it fall to the ground, we can let it land and turn into a larger flame, touching fire in 1 minute and 4 seconds. Alright, so those were all the World at War Zombies maps. The average time it took to touch fire in World at War was about 51 seconds. The total time was 3 minutes and 25 seconds. Shinonuma had the slowest time at 2 minutes and 17 seconds, while Verrucht had the fastest time at 1 second. The most common source of fire was debris/rubble. I mean, they're kind of like the same thing, right? Debris and rubble? I don't know. Black Ops 1 Zombies gave me the toughest time touching fire, and you'll see why soon. Keynoter Toten is our first map, and you might already have a decent idea of where we're going to find our fire source here. Though, I really thought that if I looked hard enough, I could find something a little bit earlier. But this map must have some really good safety regulations in place, because I could not find anything burning. Luckily, this map has a trap that can help us. Though we have to turn the power on for it, which took some time. Once we make our way to the trap and activate it, we can jump in and touch fire in 5 minutes and 29 seconds. This time, it actually hurt to touch. But if we move on over to the Black Ops 3 version of Kino, we can find fire way faster by making our way to the alley, where we'll find plenty of debris on fire, touching fire in about 1 minute. Moving on to 5, there isn't anything immediately in spawn, so once again, we have to build up some points and make our way down the elevator. We run around the corner, and in this ashtray, there's a lit cigarette, touching fire in 1 minute and 55 seconds. I know this is a reach, but I spent hours looking around the map for fire. I for sure thought there'd be some fire somewhere in the labs, but we remain fireless. There are some cigarettes in the spawn, but they were either not lit or farther away, so this seemed like the best one. If you can find anything better, let me know. Ascension was nice and easy. We just had to fight our way out of spawn and head outside. There's some burning rubble we can run into, touching fire in 1 minute and 46 seconds. Here it is in color, just in case you thought I was lying. Much like the other runs where we have to get out of spawn, it could probably be a lot faster, but it really just depends on drops and how the zombies spawn. But I think this is a good average time to go off of. Call of the Dead might ruffle some feathers, but here we go. I was very worried I wouldn't be able to find any fire here, and I was hoping I'd find it somewhere on the ship. And I did, beyond a barrier. I think that this is the only instance of something burning like this anywhere on the map. But I did find something else I could touch that was close enough. The zombies are slow to spawn, but when we get enough points, we can open up this first little boat and touch fire in 56 seconds. It's a flare, which is fire enough for me. Shangri-La was another interesting one. There wasn't anything in spawn, so similar to Shinonuma, we had to break out of spawn in order to jump up and grab this torch, touching fire in about 39 seconds. I checked the same spot on Black Ops 3 and there was a lantern instead, but the old torch from Black Ops 1 was still there, extinguished. This was a detail I never noticed before, and that was really cool to find. And finally, we have arrived at Moon. I did not know what to expect coming into this map, as I couldn't recall if I've ever seen fire anywhere on the map. I assumed we might only find it at spawn, but as I looked around, I found nothing. So I went to the moon and began looking around everywhere, in the highest roofs and the lowest corners. I considered the thrusters below the floating pads, but I wasn't 100% sure that those were fire. It just seemed like some sort of anti-gravity thing. I also checked Area 51 one last time, only to down in the process. And that's when it dawned on me. The Easter egg. I had to do the Easter egg. If you didn't know, completing the Easter egg shatters the Earth. An Earth we can return to and find in flames. So I started my attempts, and there is no way I was going to do it on Black Ops 1, mostly because I'm doing it solo. I had not completed this egg in a long time, so it was rough to get through at times. It's mainly that stupid Simon Says. I cannot for the life of me do it while zombies are chasing me. Now I see why you should probably do this on co-op. I also patched the box to have a higher chance of giving me the special grenades and the wonder weapon. I did this because I did a run without it and I spent like an hour each time I had to hit the box. I eventually got to the final Simon Says and I was ready to head back to Area 51. I'm telling you, Simon Says is the bane of my existence. I tried it again, and this time, if you don't know how this Easter egg works, you need the excavator to breach Tunnel 6, and so because it didn't breach it first, I would lose a lot of time, so I had to reset. And so then I tried it again, but this time I would play it a lot safer. I made it to the part where Richtofen swaps bodies with Samantha, and then this happened. My heart skipped a beat when this popped up. I was not ready to start all over again. Luckily, I could just press OK and continue playing, so I guess whatever that was wasn't very important. I ended up spending almost 10 minutes on that final Simon Says part. Eventually, I would get it. So I made my way to the teleporter. Spawning back in, I ran down the steps and into some fire, touching fire in 52 minutes and 22 seconds. The longest time yet. This was a terrible time. I mean, the world record for the Easter egg is like 19 minutes. I was pausing a lot and I played like a buffoon. I am not good at this map, but I could not handle playing this map any longer. If you've done speedruns of this Easter egg before, you get my pain. If you can touch fire on this map any faster or find a better fire source, then let me know. Black Ops 1 was a lot of fun to look through, with the exception of Moon. The average time it took to touch fire in Black Ops 1 was 9 minutes and 43 seconds, though my Moon time really skewed this one. The total time was 58 minutes and 22 seconds. Moon, of course, had the slowest time at 52 minutes and 22 seconds. Shangri-La had the fastest time at 39 seconds. The most common source of fire was once again debris/rubble. Black Ops 2 actually has the most amount of maps we'll be looking at from a single game. Well, kinda. It's also probably going to be the fastest, considering that Earth is practically on fire. Transit is our starting point, and we all knew this one would be fast. We kill the zombies that are standing around, and then we buy the door, jumping into the lava pit below, which we can only get to if we get there before the bus covers it up, touching fire in 6 seconds. This time, I wanted to do the individual survival maps as well, since some of them can look a little different from the main map. On Bus Depot, there aren't any zombies standing around. We have to wait for them to spawn in, which costs us some time. And even worse, there are a bunch of cars covering up the lava pit right in front. So we head past it and find a crack on the floor, touching fire in about 35 seconds. The rest of these transit maps I'm going to run through quickly. They're all pretty much less than a second. On town, we touch fire almost instantly at 33 milliseconds. I tried to get it instantly, but I don't think the game ever spawns you directly in fire, or at least I couldn't get it to do that. On farm, we can run over to one of the cracks in the floor and touch fire in 63 milliseconds. And on diner, as a zombie, we can touch fire in just under a second at 83 milliseconds. Yeah, running around as a zombie in third person looks absolutely ridiculous. Moving on over to Nuketown, we have a similar fast time, touching fire in a little over 1 second. I knew this one would be quick. It's a nuked town. Die Rise was a tough one, simply because I could not find any great fire sources. If you go in the elevator and wait around long enough and let it drop, you'll be able to catch some sparks, which is close enough to fire in my opinion. Touching fire in 5.56 seconds. If you can find fire on this map anywhere else, seriously let me know, cause I spent a lot of time looking around for a better fire source and I could not find anything. Mob of the Dead was also a quick one. I didn't use the afterlife to touch fire as I felt like that wouldn't be touching it since you're not really alive, but after reviving you can take a step back and touch fire in 3.2 seconds. And just like with the transit maps, we're also going to take a look at Mob of the Dead's survival map, Cell Block, which is a little faster than Mob, touching fire in 2.5 seconds. It's just tiny flames, they're harmless. Buried was the only map that gave me some trouble. Once again, I was so sure that fire would be more immediately available, but boy was I wrong. I hadn't played Buried in a while, so it took some time getting used to, as I had to progress through some parts of the map using Leroy, which can be pretty slow. But eventually, I'd open up the door into the mansion and find my way into this side room, touching fire in 4 minutes and 8 seconds. I know it's not the best fire source, but it's a fire source nonetheless. I was very surprised there weren't more fire sources on this map. And since Burrow is just a segment of the Buried map, there was actually no fire at all, since we couldn't access the mansion and had even less to explore. Our first map with no fire. And to finish off BO2, we have Origins. Nothing directly in spawn, so we have to build up points once again. We make it outside, and in the corner of the trenches, find a burning body. Wait, it says fire this way. Okay, that was a lie. Though, on Black Ops 3, we can make our way out the other spawn a bit quicker and find some sort of fire on the ground, touching fire in 6.8 seconds. It's like molten rock or something. I'm not entirely sure, but it still looks like it'll leave a hell of a burn, and there's fire nearby anyway. Despite BO2 having the most maps on the list, it was quick and easy. The average time it took to touch fire in Black Ops 2 was about 28 seconds. The total time was 5 minutes and 11 seconds, mostly due to Buried, which had the slowest time at 4 minutes and 8 seconds, while Town had the fastest time at 33 milliseconds. The most common source of fire was lava, or magma, I guess. Black Ops 3 only has a few maps since we already covered the older maps in their respective game sections. Starting off with Shadows of Evil. I had to ponder whether I would count the purple flames of the beast mode or even the flames you see while in beast mode, which would make this map's time a lot faster. To me, these flames are more like magic and don't really count, since nothing is actually on fire. But they are more like fire than other fire sources in this video. I wasn't entirely sure, so I went with something a little more concrete, which involved a little skip to open the stairway, allowing us to make our way into the ritual room early and finding it littered with candles, touching fire in 27 seconds. This feels more right as a fire source. For Dreisendrach, I had one source for each side of the spawn. The first one had me making my way through the map until I found this spot here covered in flames. This was a good fire source, but not the fastest. Going the other way of spawn ensures we don't need as many points, because as we enter this room, we can jump up and once again find ourselves some candles, touching fire in 30 seconds. I think the first fire source is better since we're actually stepping on fire, but the candles work too, and they're quicker. Oh, Zetsubo no Shima. This is another one of those maps where I just couldn't find anything, which kinda makes sense. It's a very wet map. I just assumed we might find something within the interiors of the map, but as I looked around, I found nothing. That was until I looked into some of the Easter eggs, and that's when I found something. I had to obtain the skull of Nan Sapwe. I think that's how you say it, probably. Someone correct me. Or at least open up the hidden altar underground. This took me a while, as I'm not really a big fan of this map. This was probably only the third time I've ever attempted to get this wonder weapon. Anyways, once I finished up collecting the skulls and placed them all on the pedestal, lightning struck the trees nearby, causing a fire, touching fire in 16 minutes and 33 seconds. This could definitely be done faster. The world record is like 9 minutes, which actually makes me the runner-up, at least according to speedrun.com. We all knew Krovi would be quick, and it was, touching fire in 3.26 seconds. And it's all thanks to the dragon and its compulsion to set alight the same few spots. Finishing up with Revelations, we have to make our way out of spawn, which is easy enough since we already have enough points. And in the Shangri-La section of the map, there's a torch we can just walk into, which I thought was pretty funny, getting the most intimate with fire and touching it in 11 seconds. There's another torch across from it that has collision, so I'm not sure what went wrong here. Black Ops 3 had a few quick times and plenty of fire. The average time it took to touch fire in Black Ops 3 was about 33 seconds. The total time was 17 minutes and 45 seconds, which again was mostly due to one outlier, Zetsubo no Shima, which had the slowest time of 16 minutes and 33 seconds. Krovi had the fastest time at 3.26 seconds. The most common source of fire was candles. Black Ops 4 has a good chunk of maps, so strap in. Voyage of Despair was surprisingly quick with fire, touching fire in 2.73 seconds. Water and fire right at spawn. We just need grass and we're on our way to something amazing. Well, as amazing as the elements can be in a zombies game. IX is next. Wait, sorry, 9. 9 is next. I just really wanted to say IX is next. A few rounds in, fire appears and can actually burn you, but that can take some time, so instead I opted for this. Getting out of spawn, we just need a few points so we can make our way into the raw tower. Underground, there's a torch on the floor, touching fire in 25 seconds. There's other places with fire on this map, but the torch we can stand on just felt like a more concrete choice. Moving on to Blood of the Dead, we can buy our way out of spawn immediately and head over to this burning car, touching fire in 10 seconds. Yeah, there's a bit of glowing debris leading up to the car, but again, I felt like the actual flame was better than whatever was on the ground. Compared to the cracks on transit, this doesn't even light you on fire when you cross over it. Classified was a quick one and could be even quicker, touching fire in 1.36 seconds. Really just depends on where you spawn. There's lots of little fires littering this first room, so no matter where you spawn, it's probably going to be about a second or less. On Dead of the Night, if we spawn on the correct side, we can turn the corner and find a candle we can stick inside us, touching fire in 3.36 seconds. This is another one of those technicalities because of how the collision lined up. There's also this fireplace, but the game really doesn't want you to get close to it. I was playing around with candles in other parts of the map and this happened. I don't know how I did that. I couldn't do it again after I fell off. So yeah, the collision on these candles is weird. Ancient Evil's fire might be controversial, but here we go. We have to make our way around out of spawn and find this torch. We can get pretty close to it, touching fire in 11 seconds. You could argue though that this fire source at spawn is better, but is it? The game doesn't let you get as close to it as the torch. Sure, it's quicker, but the torch seems more reasonable. Regardless, this one was pretty quick as well. Alpha Omega is next, and oh, we touched fire already in 1.1 seconds. I like when they're this quick and in your face. And just like that, we have arrived in Tag der Toten, the one that's set all in the snow and ice. Of course, we're not going to find any fire right away, so we have to progress a bit through the map, and I can already see it in the distance. We run up to the burning ship, go back down into the water, and touch fire in 1 minute and 30 seconds. This is the first and perhaps the only instance of touching both fire and water at the same time. I'm burning and freezing. This is awesome. Even though Black Ops 4 had a good amount of maps, they were all pretty quick. The average time it took to touch fire on Black Ops 4 was 18 seconds. The total time was 2 minutes and 25 seconds. Tag der Toten had the slowest time at 1 minute and 30 seconds. Alpha Omega had the fastest time at 1.1 seconds. The most common source of fire was debris/rubble. Overall, one of the fastest games for fire so far when compared to other games with a similar amount of maps. There's only 4 zombie maps on Cold War, and they have a good amount of detail put into them, so fire will be fast here. Die Machine is covered in snow, but since we're pretty much at Nacht der Untoten, we can run in and find the same fire source we found all the way back in World at War, touching fire in 7.96 seconds. It's still here, burning strong. Except it's now just some wood in a barrel instead of chairs. Bring back the chairs! Fire Base Z is another quick one. I mean, it's in the name, Fire Base. We spawn in and run forward. Here we can find a burning ladder, touching fire in about 4 seconds. I haven't played this map that much, but I never noticed this. Also, it's a pretty weird place for there to be fire though, right? There's this burning scaffolding nearby, but this placement just seems random. In Mauer der Toten, we have yet another flare as our fire source, touching fire in 2 seconds. Though we can also find some fire burning down the building, also pretty close to spawn. Forsaken was a tricky one. It involves going for a long jump, allowing us to touch fire in 2.23 seconds. There's also this spot here with more burning crates that is a bit more consistent. Either way, Forsaken was fast, and it was probably the one that takes the most amount of skill. Touching fire skills, they exist. People can have them. Black Ops Cold War was very fast. The average time it took to touch fire on Cold War zombies was about 4 seconds, making it the fastest game thus far. The total time was 16.89 seconds. Die Machine had the slowest time at 7.96 seconds. Forsaken had the fastest time at 2.23 seconds. Each map had a different fire source, one of 2 games to do this. Vanguard also only has 4 maps. Well, kind of. And they're going to be rather quick as well. Duran Fang is first, and happy 4th birthday because we're back to touching candles, touching fire in 2.76 seconds. Thankfully in this game, we can climb up almost anything as well, giving us more access to fire sources like candles. Thank God we can do that. Terra Maledicta requires us to go through one of these portals. And yes, I kept resetting to get the correct one to actually spawn. And once we get through this loading screen, we can spawn in once again and find fire to touch rather quickly at 27.33 seconds. It was mostly a loading screen. You can spawn around here in random spots and some are quicker than others, but this one seemed like one of the better ones. The Archon has a different fire source since we're not meant to be teleporting into other maps this time. Building some points and making our way out left of spawn, we'll find an ammo crate with a torch next to it, touching fire in 31.33 seconds. There's another torch way closer, but it's just barely out of reach. Back to Shinonuma, and yet again we find a candle, touching fire in about 1 second. I just noticed this, but don't these candles look fake? The flame does not look like a real flame at all. You know what? Sorry, Vanguard gets enough shit already. I don't have to nitpick it any further. Let's just move on. We exited Vanguard as quickly as we entered it. The average time it took to touch fire in Vanguard zombies was 15 seconds. The total time was 1 minute and 2 seconds. The Archon was the slowest at 31 seconds, and Shinonuma Reborn was the fastest at 1 second. The most common source of fire was candles yet again. Black Ops 6 is the most recent Call of Duty game with zombies in it, at least at the time of recording. And maps are still coming out, but you know what, let's just do what we can. Liberty Falls has plenty of fire, and we can even see some in the loading screens. Once we load in, we can jump down and head over to this tank, where we can slide into some flames and feel the burn, touching fire in 5 seconds exactly. Terminus was a tough one. Once again, I could not find any fire on the map. I haven't played it as much, so I'm not sure if maybe I missed something, but I spent a good chunk of time looking around. It's like they had to make sure that this map couldn't burn. Eventually, I began to lower my standards for fire, and in doing so, I found this funny interaction between the raft and tomahawks. Not sure if it's patched out yet, but it would be cool to see if it could be utilized to kill zombies somehow. Anyways, I started shooting the raft to get it to explode, and eventually I saw fire, so I knew my mission. This just turned into a destroy a raft speedrun. I had to progress my way through the map and activate all the generators to turn on the power. The raft would then auto spawn in, and all I had to do was shoot it till it popped. And once I did, I was able to touch fire in 5 minutes and 12 seconds. Not the best fire source, as I would prefer it to be a part of the actual level environment, but it was going to have to do for now. Citadel des Morts. CDM seems to not have any fire at spawn. At least that's what I thought initially. But there's a bit of fire hidden underneath this van, melting away the tire, touching fire in 2.13 seconds. The tomb is also another quick one. We just have to spawn in, run down, and touch fire in 2.26 seconds. I spent more time in the loading screens for this game than I did trying to get these last 2 runs. Alright, so that was Black Ops 6, the most recent Call of Duty Zombies installment. The average time it took to touch fire in Black Ops 6 Zombies was 1 minute and 20 seconds. The total time was 5 minutes and 21 seconds. Terminus was the slowest at 5 minutes and 12 seconds. CDM was the fastest at 2.13 seconds. Each map also had a different fire source, making it even more similar to Cold War Zombies. Alright, so those were all the Treyarch Zombies games up to this point. The rest of these will be all the non-Treyarch Zombies games and maps. There's not as many, so this half will be shorter, though they're equally as interesting. Call of Duty Ghosts has the Extinction game mode, which I consider to be close enough to zombies. I mean, it is part of the Infinite Warfare Zombies universe after all. Point of contact is where we begin. Right when we spawn, we run around this helicopter and find a burning barrel. After a few attempts, I was able to actually jump on top of it, touching fire in about 5 seconds. This jump is actually a bit more precise than you would think, but regardless, it's pretty fast even if you miss it once or twice. Nightfall, I was a bit worried about. I thought I would actually have to play through most of the map until I got into the interior areas to find fire. But once we get past this scripted intro, we can activate a fire trap and walk along it, touching fire in 20.26 seconds. Mayday spawns you in the ocean in the rain, so most of the time is spent waiting until we get onto the ship. Once we do, we can make our way up and begin shooting this barrel. It'll explode and we're able to touch fire in 33.33 seconds. Barrel! There's a few other barrels nearby, but the one I picked seemed like the closest and the quickest. I was worried going into Awakening until I spawned in and saw that flare straight away, touching fire in about 1.40 seconds. Easy enough, the rest of the map is very stingy with fire. Finally, on Exodus, we get out of spawn and continue straight ahead where we'll find yet another fire trap, activating it and touching fire in 10.83 seconds, finishing off strong in Extinction. 5 maps, all with times less than a minute. Not bad at all. The average time it took to touch fire on Extinction was 14 seconds. The total time was 1 minute and 11 seconds. Mayday was the slowest at 33.33 seconds, and Awakening was the fastest at just 1.40 seconds. The most common source of fire was traps. Ready for another 4 maps with an outlier? I am! Advanced Warfare has just that in store for us. Loading into Outbreak, we can already see some fire ready to be touched. Running forward, we can make our way to this debris and touch fire in about 4 seconds. It doesn't look like it, but trust me, there is fire here. There's fire on the other side of this panel and it randomly clips through sometimes. Jumping up seems to make it more visible. It works for me. The alternative was to count these lasers as fire, but that didn't feel right. Infection was an interesting one. We have to make our way out of spawn and over to this gas station, where we can find some burning oil, sliding into it and touching fire in 50.73 seconds. And this fire actually hurts. We can also lay atop this car and let it slowly cook us, which doesn't hurt us, so I guess it's safe. Carrier is next, and as soon as we spawn, there's some rubble on fire right in front of us. That seems to extinguish if we get too close. We were able to touch fire on Carrier in 2.33 seconds. Descent was very annoying. Initially, I thought this would be pretty straightforward and I'd find fire somewhere on the map, but I was very wrong, and of course I was. This map is set in an underwater aquarium and it's raining. Why did I ever think it would be that easy? At first, I was going to count the lasers as fire again, but like I said earlier, that just didn't feel like fire enough. I spent a lot of time looking for fire and found nothing. As a last resort, I looked into the Easter egg, and once again, I found something. So now I had to learn the entire Descent Easter egg and do it solo for the first time. I had never done the Easter egg before this. This is by far one of the most annoying Easter eggs I've ever attempted. And if you've done it before, you probably know why. I did a lot of pausing along the way as I was following a guide. And of course, there's a goddamn Simon Says step. Luckily, this one was a bit easier to do than the moon one. Eventually, I had reached the end of the Easter egg where we're teleported back to the Outbreak spawn, jumping off the bus and touching fire in a quick 1 hour, 39 minutes, and 42 seconds. Yeah, I know, it's terrible. But this was not our final time. Completing this Easter egg, I learned a few things. The drones have thrusters, which is fire, and when your power armor is destroyed, it explodes into flames. Both are good, but I want to maintain the standard of the fire having to be part of the actual level environment. So that's why I progressed through the map some more until I got to the Oz fight, where after being shot enough, explodes outwards towards the player, touching fire in 26 minutes and 20 seconds. A way better time. It could be better, but I was done with this map. It's one of my favorites environmental design-wise, but the Easter egg is miserable. Let's just move on. I played the most Advanced Warfare I've ever played just to touch fire. The average time it took to touch fire on Advanced Warfare was 6 minutes and 49 seconds. The total time was 27 minutes and 17 seconds. Descent was the Great Disruptor, with the slowest time at 26 minutes and 20 seconds. Carrier set the fastest time at 2.33 seconds. The most common source of fire was debris/rubble. I really don't want to have to play Descent for a long time. Infinite Warfare is my favorite non-Treyarch zombies game, so hopefully we get some good times. And we're already off to a bad start with zombies in Spaceland. There's nothing in spawn and nothing immediately out of spawn, so we have to go a little deeper, which means collecting more points and taking even longer to get where we need to be. But there is fire on this map. We have to turn the power on first and then just activate this trap. Running in, the rocket turns on and our skin begins to melt off, touching fire in 3 minutes and 41 seconds. Probably the most intense flames we'll feel today. Or maybe not, if our pain receptors burn off quicker than we can process. Do I even have to say anything for Raven the Redwoods? Y'all see what I'm seeing, right? Running up to this fireplace and touching fire in 73 milliseconds. I know it's hard to tell how close we are to the fire, but in third person you can see we're a lot closer, especially if we're punching it. Sheldon Shuffle is next, and this one was pretty straightforward. Just had to turn the power on and build up some points. Right outside of spawn, we'll find some fire by a mattress, touching fire in 39.93 seconds. So are the bricks on fire or is the mattress on fire? There's a lot of fire around here in this area, so really it was just about how quickly we can get out of spawn. Attack of the radioactive thing took a lot longer than expected. Once again, I really thought I'd just find fire somewhere on the map, but there is no flames to be found. I did eventually find a fire source, but it needed a bit of setup. Not much though, it was a trap that I had to build. And once I did, I activated it and stood in front of it, touching some harsh flames in 5 minutes and 15 seconds. One thing that surprised me about this trap is that it doesn't actually hurt you. I guess it's not that bad. The Beast from Beyond is the last map for Infinite Warfare. You'd think that fire would be easy to find here, but there just isn't that much in the station. But we do have something. We just have to kill some aliens and get out of spawn. Then we open up some more doors, jump down next to where the Tough Enough machine is, and we'll find a flare where we can touch fire in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. If we go further into the map, we can find some flames outside the theater, though it'd take like 3 times as long to get here when compared to the flare. Some of the Infinite Warfare maps took a bit longer than expected, but overall it wasn't too bad. The average time it took to touch fire on Infinite Warfare was 2 minutes and 28 seconds. The total time was 12 minutes and 23 seconds. Attack of the radioactive thing was the slowest at 5 minutes and 15 seconds. Rave in the Redwoods was the fastest at just 73 milliseconds. The most common source of fire was traps yet again. World War II Zombies has plenty of maps for us to look through, so let's see what we can find. The Final Reich introduces us to the fact that a good chunk of these maps are set in the snow. But don't worry, there's still plenty of fire to be found. Here, we just have to open the first door and run over to some burning debris, touching fire in about 31 seconds. The Darkest Shore spawns you on the beach with no bonfire in sight. So we have to get out of there to find fire deeper in the map. We need a lot of points here as we need to open a good amount of doors. Eventually though, we'll find ourselves standing over a plant fire, touching fire in 3 minutes and 43 seconds. It's also a spot where zombies can spawn out of, so there's that. Moving on to the Shadowed Throne. This is perhaps the only map where we must wait at spawn for the fire, because after a few seconds, some burning debris falls, allowing us to walk up and touch fire in 4.83 seconds. Finishing out the main maps with the Frozen Dawn, we simply have to turn around to touch fire in just a little under a second. If it wasn't for this plane crash at spawn, I don't think we would have been able to find any fire on this map. The rest of this map is all snow and ice. Now, we just have the smaller survival maps remaining. Groston House has some candles nearby right when we spawn, touching fire in 1 second. There's also this fireplace, but I felt the candles were closer. And that's it, no other fire on this map. It's a very small map. On Bodega Cervantes, we just turn around once again to touch fire in just 76 milliseconds. The fire takes some time to appear if you're too close, but it's there. USS Mount Olympus was empty. I double checked, I even triple checked. The best I could find was the electricity trap, but I don't really think that should count. There really just wasn't anything here, so let's just move on. Altar of Blood is our final map, and it's a quick one, touching fire in 2 seconds. Not exactly in the fire, but close enough. The World War II maps are all very quick, -1. The average time it took to touch fire on World War II Zombies was about 37 seconds. The total time was 4 minutes and 25 seconds, mostly because of the Darkest Shore, which held the slowest time at 3 minutes and 43 seconds. Bodega Cervantes held the fastest time at just 76 milliseconds. The most common source of fire was debris/rubble. We're not exactly done just yet. We still have one more zombies game with unique maps left to explore. Black Ops 1 on the Nintendo DS. House is the first map we'll be looking at, and thankfully we have fire right at spawn. Running up to the fireplace at a low frame rate and touching fire in 3.73 seconds. I mean, we're not able to get that close to it, but trust me when I say that this is really the best we're going to get, and it's only going to go downhill from here. Facility is next, and this one had nothing. Yeah, I had to progress through every part of the map, and that experience alone made me rage so much that I burst into flames, touching fire. Luckily in jungle, I didn't have to play for long, because when we spawn in, we can touch fire in about half a second. I know we're not really touching it, but like, this is the closest we're going to get to fire on this map, especially since we can't even jump. The rest of the map has more torches, but they're equally as touchable. And for the final map, Overlook, there is no fire. Perhaps I may have overlooked something, but I couldn't find anything. There is a fireplace, but there's no fire. A very anticlimactic end, but at least we're done with this game. Okay, so here are all the final stats for all the games and maps we covered today. The fastest game on average was Black Ops 1 on the DS, but let's just not count that one for now. The actual fastest game on average in touching fire that isn't on the Nintendo DS was Black Ops Cold War at an average of 4.22 seconds. The slowest game on average was Black Ops 1 with an average of 9 minutes and 43 seconds. The slowest map was Moon at 52 minutes and 22 seconds, and the fastest map was Town at 33 milliseconds. The most common source of fire was debris/rubble, followed by torches and candles. And with that, we have finished exploring every Call of Duty Zombies game and map in search of fire. I did skip over the Outbreak maps on Cold War and Modern Warfare Zombies because, well, I didn't really want to do them and they don't work well in this format anyways. If you're able to find fire on maps that I couldn't find any on, or perhaps found something quicker or closer on other maps, then let me know. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this and want more like it, consider subscribing. And let me know if you want to see a grass one, because I'll probably do that one next. Alright, take care. See ya.